Now, we fear whisper that we are not enough. How do we hold on to our true identity? Let's welcome Abby to share her insight on this.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zhang. Today, I want to talk about fear. Not the fear of spiders or horror movies, but a more quieter, more personal fear. The fear of losing ourselves, of not knowing who we are, of believing that our backgrounds make us less than. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers like, what if I'm not enough? What if my story doesn't matter? Psychology has a term for this, which is cognitive bias, which means that to save energy, our brains usually relies on mental shortcuts or also heuristics that can create systematic errors of perception. One common bias is called the negativity bias, which means that our brain is so weird that we might perceive more negatives than the positives. So that's why many young people believe that my hometown is boring or my experiences aren't valuable, but that's just bias but not the truth. Let's do a quick experiment. Think back to your childhood that once seemed very ordinary or even embarrassing. Now, with time, do you see it differently? Do you think that my experiences actually is a little bit special or it actually seems very different? That's how fear tricks us, by hiding the beauty of what we already carry. From my point of view, like I grew up in Beijing Dongcheng district, a place with beautiful old hutongs. And at least I think they're beautiful, and some of you might think they're a little bit poor, but that's not important. So my elementary school was stuck inside the alleyways, and my middle school was just around the corner. And my life was simple but rich with details, like the taste of chopgar, the smell of tangchaolizi on cold winter nights, the sunlight on broken roof tiles, and also we already treated cats like our family members. Later, I moved to Haidian district for high school, and suddenly I was surrounded by 3 students who studied math Olympics or even TOEFL from a very young age. And like the Haidian Public Library already stopped at about 9 o'clock, so every seat taken and every student's focus. And I must admit that I was a little bit nervous and I almost lost myself within the crowd. The turning point is, well, when I'm chatting with my friends, like chatting about foods, about something else, I suddenly realized a hidden gifts of my own upbringing. For example, I almost feel sorry for my friends from the part of the Beijing, and she has never tasted chopgar, like the other people from outside the city who never tasted douzhi. Honestly, she's missing out so much life's flavor. By the way, I strongly recommend you guys to try the Beijing traditional foods because from my point of view, they're so delicious. So that's when I realized I carry a unique imprint of where I grew up. I belong to the alleyways, the roof tiles, and the old palm trees, so tall that they look like they might snap in the wind. My playmates are the cats skipping across roof tiles, and even sometimes a kind of species that I can't tell their names, dashing out from under a car. So my life was spent under the dim streetlights, watching the glow of the gently shakes across trees and walls. And downstairs, the plants are always messy and unattended, but I knew exactly which corner had mint, which had a Chinese thorn tree. So when the pomegranate flowers will bloom, every autumn, for example, in my courtyards and my neighborhoods, there's 2 pomegranate trees will bloom and have fruits. But each autumn they will attract insects, so I can only admire them but not eat them. And maybe that's what makes me a little different from those of you who grew up in Haidian, is that I'm a little bit closer to the soil. You see, what I treasure most is not the luxury of a big city. I think Beijing is not all about prosperity. Actually, it is very ordinary. What I treasure is the little fragments of daily life. The winds I felt, the shadows I watched, the smells, the taste, and the flavors that only belong to my neighborhood. These are the things that built my memories, shaped my personalities, and became part of who I am. So, fear transforms into pride. Instead of fearing that I was less, I began to think it as more, a richness that no one could take away. This isn't just my feeling, research confirms it. A psychologist called Erik Erikson says that adolescence is a time or stage that we constantly ask ourselves, like, who am I and where do I belong? And this is a period of identity formation. When fear tells us our story is not enough, it collects with very process in our identity building. But studies also shows that environments could leave lasting imprints on us. The German writer once said, soul is formed by the landscape it inhabits. So our memories, smells, and even the smallest details of our childhood, these are not tribal. They are part of our inner architecture. So when fear tells us you don't belong, psychology shows that you are already carrying everything you need. The fear of losing ourselves is real, but the truth is we cannot lose what is already etched into our lives. Our marks, like the environment, the memories, the every piece of things that we experience, travel with us. And they are not scars, but treasures. So maybe your memories are looking nothing like mine. Maybe there's no old hutongs or even trees or food, but something completely different. But that's the point. What feels ordinary to us, those small pieces, can actually be the most powerful part in our story. So next time you think my experiences isn't enough, just remember that what you carry might be exactly what someone else wants to hear. Thank you.